welcome to British Accent Academy with me, Simon Brampton. This video is part 2 of connected speech. In part 1 we looked at liaison, which is linking words together, and intrusion, where a sound appears between two vowels. If you haven't seen that video, then I will put a link at the end of this one. In this video then, part 2 of connected speech, we are going to look at two very important features to make your English even more natural. The first one is elision, where letters are deleted, and the second one is assimilation, where letters change sounds. That might sound a little bit complicated, but I think you'll see that once you know it exists, it's not going to be so difficult to understand, but maybe more difficult to actually produce. But that comes with practice. So let's begin then with feature number 3 of this series, and that is elision, which is basically deleting letters, sounds and syllables in words. You could say that it's a form of verbal efficiency and it helps you speak faster. So it's basically, elision is the elimination of different sounds, letters and syllables. And we have a rule for those. Let's look at one example and then I'll explain why it happens. She lives next door. That's not natural. We would say she lives next door. Next door. What would you say? Would you say next door or would you say next door? Next door. So some letters are changing there. They're disappearing. Let's see why. Well, in single words, you might have a redundant syllable. For example, in camera, which has a schwa, we'd say camera. Camera. In comfortable, this is a favourite, isn't it, that you see in your English classes, we'd say comfortable. Comfortable. So another disappears. Interesting. So the disappears and we get interesting. Interesting. And another one, different. Different becomes different. Different. So remember these, they're very common words, and if you say them like this, it will sound much more natural. They'll say, are you British? The next one is consonant clusters. All right, so this is many consonants together. Give me becomes gimme. Gimme. Gimme that, please. Gimme that. Maybe you've heard that before. Friendly becomes friendly, so the D disappears. Must be becomes must be, so the T disappears. Contractions of the H and often the T are omitted. For example, didn't he. So the he disappears. A little bit like, well, in Spanish it doesn't exist, does it? So why not in English? Didn't he? Or didn't he? You will hear this a lot because they're very common words. Awareness is very important. When you begin to understand and you begin to know these different features, you will begin to hear them all the time. Third one is a very typical one in consonant clusters, is the ST. So the T becomes silent. Look at these ones. Instead of listen, it's listen. Castle, soften, often, whistle. Do you notice that the first syllable is stressed before the ST? So when you stress that syllable, the T disappears. Listen, castle, soften, often, whistle. I don't know why I'm doing this, but it seems to be in a rhythm. The next one, a strong T. Now it's a strong one. Strong T is not elided. Elided means it doesn't disappear. So in this case, we say arrested because we are stressing. It's a tonic, syllaba tonica, and we keep it. Arrested, assistant, justify, casting, costume, contest. Silent letters appear due to the origin of the word. You may know these because they're very typical, but I wanted to repeat them because sometimes you just forget, don't you? With this one, mortgage, mortgage. The T disappears. Mortgage. Next one, doubt, doubt, and receipt. Now remember, receipt is a false friend if you speak a Latin language. So receipt is not. What does it mean? Do you remember? It's not receta, it's recibo or ticket. Ticket. Yeah, as well. You have to remember that as well. Let's go to another feature now of elision, and it has a special or fancy name called geminates. It basically means that when you have two consonants which are the same together, one of them disappears. It's just more efficient, isn't it? And that happens in most languages. So instead of saying my social life, you say my social life, social life. Okay, like that. I want to becomes I want to, or sometimes I want to, even the T disappears. Get to the finish line is get to the finish line. So that's geminates. Another feature is the pronunciation of which becomes of, which I mentioned earlier, if you remember, or if you were listening. And this becomes a schwa, of. Let's look at an example. He's a man. He's a man of steel. He's a man of steel, like Superman. He's a man of steel. No, he's a man of. And sometimes you can even delete the V. So he's a man of steel. A man of steel. Another one is, for example, the book of life becomes the book of life, or the book of life. The book of life. That will make you sound so native that other colleagues and classmates just won't believe. They go, that's wrong. That's wrong. You can't say the book of life. And you go, yes, watch Simon's video. Another one is, I'd like some of that, or some of that. I'd like some of that. What, that cake? Yeah, I'd like some of that. We are becoming more and more natural now with our sentences. So that's elision. The next one is the final T is omitted. An example is, did you eat yet? Did you eat yet? And we're also using the connected speech, the liaison. Did you eat yet? Did you eat yet? So you can get rid of the T at the end of some words. This is a typical feature of more informal English and spoken quickly. So you don't have to say, did you eat yet? Did you eat yet? No, did you eat yet? Did you eat yet? Again, it's laziness and efficiency at the same time. Would you give me some of that? Some of that? Would you give me some of that? So if you want to speak in a more formal way, would you give me some of that? But you can say, would you give me some of that? Would you give me some of that? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Let's look at these single words, very short words, very common words. And when spoken in informal and fast speech, you will notice that the T disappears. So this will help you understand. And also, if you want to use it, use it. See, I'm even using it now. The T disappears. But becomes but. Not becomes not. Put becomes put. That becomes that. What becomes what. Get becomes get. And it becomes it. It. This is what we will look at soon, as called a glottal stop, where you swallow the T. Your vocal cords go together and it stops the air. So you want to say it, but it goes it like that. It will make you sound even more native. And we can't talk about English without talking about French words in English, because there are a lot. And the ones which finish with a T are not pronounced. The T is not pronounced. So, for example, be careful with this, because in Spanish, also the way you pronounce the words is very different. So it's not ballet, it's ballet, ballet, gourmet, rapport, ricochet, buffet, croquet, valet, debut. Another one is, as I said before, the glottal stop. This is where we swallow the T. So instead of the T being pronounced, it goes like that. It is a feature of London English, but it is becoming more and more common in many varieties of English. So let's see when it is acceptable and when it sounds more informal or unacceptable or a little bit working class. You don't want that, do you? She's from Britain is a good example. So saying Britain, she's from Britain. Britain. So within a word, before a consonant which is stressed. So for example, department. So par, when it's part of the syllable that is stressed and it has a T, the T disappears. This is very acceptable in standard British English. So it's not wrong to say it. Department, fitness, fitness, football, network. Shall we do that again? But then, of course, you can replay this. So instead of depart, we say department, fitness, football, network. Have you heard that before? It's acceptable. Another one, partner, platform, Scotland, treatment. The second example of glottal stops are words with a T again, but this one, the end of the word before a consonant. Let's look at what that means. So it's what we did before with like but and put, and we have them here. About now, about now, a lot more, at least, get ready. It would be very unusual to hear the T pronounced here. It would in fact almost sound unnatural. So if you say about now, a lot more. If you said a lot more, a little bit unnatural. At least, get ready Get ready, you could say, for emphasis, but normally, get ready, please. Get ready. Another option here is, well, some more examples, a support network. That one. Part-time. Great Britain. Great Britain. So it's before another consonant. Again, it's normal and acceptable. So let's look. Now we come to a third use of the glottal stop with the T. This one is where the T is before a vowel. And this is less acceptable and is not a standard feature of received pronunciation or standard British English. But you may hear it, especially in parts of London, and it's a feature of Cockney or working class London English. Let's see what it sounds like. Now, I lived in South London until I was 12, and I have to admit I had some of these features in my speech. So I do know how to repeat this and imitate it, well, like a native actually. Article is article. Better is better. City is city. Latest is latest. Have you read the article? It's much better. I live in the city. Have you heard the latest news? What do you think about that? Let's have a look at some more examples. Party, Twitter, United, water, butter. How does that sound to you? It's the one feature which I do not recommend that you use because it is very, very regional. It can be a bit fashionable at the moment. Some people want to use this, especially some young people, but it is very much working class London English. So recognize it, but I don't recommend but. Okay, I'm using but. Remember, you can probably hear some of these features in my speech. Now we come to a fourth feature or characteristic of connected speech, and this is called assimilation. What is assimilation then? Well, look at the word assimilation and it gives you a clue. It's when it means similar, and that's when words, or should I say letters, come together and they are assimilated and they change their sound, which can be difficult to imitate, I have to admit. But I'll give you the rules and then you can see if it's something that you think is, well, feasible or viable or factible. It occurs within words and between words. Let's see how it works. So we have sun, bed, and when we have an N, the N changes to an M before a B. So it's very, very specific. Some bed, some bed. Elision. So this is the N is eliminated at the same time. It's eliminated and replaced. So the N changes to M because the M and the B are produced in a similar way. M, B. But N is like this. N. But M is M. So it's M and B sound similar, so we naturally say it. That might be a difficult one to do. Let's try another one. I've got 3 phrases for you here. Let's do it one by one. I live in Barcelona. Now, because the N is not similar to the B in Barcelona, then we substitute the N, which becomes assimilated by the M, because the M is similar to the B. M, B. I live in Barcelona. It's just easier. Let's do I work in Paris. The p, Paris, is also similar to the m. So we have I work in Paris. I work in Paris. And finally, and this is more obvious, Madrid begins with an M, so we substitute the N with M. And we have it is assimilated. The N becomes I studied in Madrid. Studied in Madrid. And this is because the N changes to M before letters beginning with B, P and M. They're all formed with a closed mouth. M, B, P, M, B, P. And that's it basically. In the next one we have examples of between words. So look at these examples and let's look at the rule. Ben can come to the party. Ben can come to the party. Ben goes out on Friday nights. Why does the N become ñ, like a ñ? Well, the rule is the N changes to ñ before k and g. K and g. This is because it's easier to say and the articulators in our mouth get ready for the next sound. It happens naturally. Again, these are not easy to remember, but when you begin to hear English and you know they exist, then you begin to hear them and you may want to repeat or imitate them and incorporate them into your English. Let's look at another example of assimilation between words. For example, here, I have to go, I have to, you notice this, I have to, the V becomes an F before the T. I have to, or I have to. Another one, I have 5 pens. I have 5 pens. The rule is the V changes to F before the T and the P. Again, because the articulators, the shape of your mouth, prepares itself for the next consonant. Another example is the th. So that's the unvoiced. Sorda. Not you. You're not sorda. You're not deaf. But the sound is th before S. So here we have the fifth Saturday becomes the fifth Saturday. So the TH becomes S. Fifth Saturday. So the th becomes an S before T and P as well. Let's have another example of assimilation is when we have a D followed by a Y, and that becomes J, like George. This is very common. You've seen it with did you eat yet? And remember, we're also incorporating here an intrusive W, which you may not have remembered. Did you eat yet? And we've also eliminated the T in eat. So we're bringing all of the features of connected speech together in one. Isn't that amazing? Would you give me some of that? Would you? So again, it's with the D and the Y, the Y becomes J. Would you give me some of that? And remember, we could also eliminate the T at the end of the word. Would you give me some of that? What do you want? What do you want? Again, we can eliminate the T at the end, and this becomes what do you want? What do you want? This is a natural way of pronouncing these words, and you're going to listen to these all the time. Finally, let's look at some examples of elision and assimilation together with 3 very, very, very common phrases which I'm sure you've seen. I want to becomes, anybody? Do you remember? I wanna go, I want to eat. I'm going to becomes, come on then, you can tell me. I'm gonna go. And finally, I've got to go, I've got to becomes I gotta, with a tap D we call it. So at the top of your mouth, your tongue taps, tap, tap, tap. I gotta go, tengo que irme. Which is more or less what I have to do now, I gotta go. So, how can you improve connected speech in your life when you're speaking, obviously? Well, you've got to study the rules and become aware of them, which we have done in this video. And this is just a small part. The important thing is to listen and to practice. Find as many other videos as well on this theme, which you can. I'll leave a link to other videos which you can find on internet, and just get a lot of exposure to the language. The more you hear, combined with knowing the rules, you begin to hear them in speech in general. It becomes something that is like a snowball effect. Efecto bola de nieve. The more you hear, the better you get, etc., etc. And that's it. If you want to learn a little bit more about pronunciation and how to learn a language in general, the 7 secrets of learning a language, then you can find them in my latest book, which is in English and in Spanish. The Spanish one is not a direct copy. I have lots of examples in there about specific ways of learning a language for a Spanish speaker. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Okay, it was long, but you can always listen to these things in parts, and it's more important than you think it is. And these books are available right now on Amazon.es. So if you like the video, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon for more videos on the British Accent Academy channel. Okay, bye bye.